Approximately every second somewhere on Earth, a passenger aircraft takes off. For the preparation of a passenger plane, dozens of employees are required. This documentary shows the flight of a Condor Boeing 757 from Frankfurt, Germany to Heraklion, Greece, starting 2 hours before departure. (4:15 a.m.) On ramp position V155 is a Boeing 757 that is due to take off in 2 hours, carrying 250 passengers to Greece. Airline technical staff are the first to arrive. Here is the aircraft. It will take off at 6:15. At around 7 o'clock we can finish and I can pack up. We now go up, start the aircraft and turn on the power. We prepare the aircraft for the crew. We look through everything again. For example, we check that the papers are all right. How do you open and close the aircraft? That is really not closed. There's no lock and key. Airports have different categories. This is a safe airport, so here we have nothing to seal. But when we are abroad, when we can't be so sure, seals are fixed to the door frames here, either paper seals or plastic seals. Before entry, they are checked to make sure that they are all in order. Are you here alone? No, I have another colleague. He walks around the aircraft. He checks the tyres and the air pressure, because the tyres have cooled overnight. The airlines prefer not to park an aircraft overnight. Parking brings no revenue, and the maintenance costs are higher. For bringing parked aircraft back to operation, there are detailed plans. The air pressure is not checked immediately after landing because the tyres are still very hot. They need to cool down first, and then we can check the air pressure. We have just removed the gear pins. They are stuck on the ground so that the suspension can't buckle when the aircraft is towed. Meanwhile, in a parking garage at Frankfurt Airport, Captain Philipp Heinbockel is on his way to the traffic control center. He has been up since 3:30 a.m., which is part of the job. It can be difficult to get used to. One is never so clearly right, but you learn to deal with it. How often do you have to get up so early? About 4 to 8 times in a month, and also in different time zones in the world. But I've learned to go to bed early and prepare myself accordingly, and now everything is easier than it was when I first started. Philipp Heinbockel is in command of the flight to Heraklion. It is now 4:30 a.m. He already has the flight preparations in mind. He knows that today he will fly to Crete, then to Santorini, and finally back to Frankfurt. Only at around 3:30 p.m. will the working day come to an end. In the traffic control center, Philipp meets co-pilot Dorothy Herman. Both now receive important information for their flight. We get our flight data, which we review. We take a look at the weather on the route, whether any taxiways are blocked, and then make a decision on how much fuel we need to take with us. We give the data to our colleagues at the traffic control center, and then we make our way to the cabin briefing and finally go to the aircraft.
Von der Verkehrszentrale und die geben die Daten weiter und dann machen wir uns auf den Weg zum Kabinenbriefing und anschließend zum Flugzeug.
The traffic control center is staffed around the clock. All the airline's aircraft movements and also the weather forecasts are constantly being observed. The pilots here get their flight route and weather data. They check the documents and decide what amount of fuel needs to be refilled.
Danke, tschüss.
Next, the pilots will be meeting with the cabin crew. Niels Eich is first on board the aircraft this morning. Last night, the Boeing 757 came back at 10:30 from Fuerteventura and was parked here. In the cockpit, the technician starts up the system. The necessary power is received from a generator on the ramp. The 34-year-old knows almost every switch on his 757.
Die Knöpfe vorne im Cockpit auf jeden Fall.
I know the buttons at the front in the cockpit. I also know most of the special systems. We also have great reference books where you can check up everything, because you can't remember everything.
Einmal kann man sich dann nicht merken, das funktioniert nicht.
In 45 minutes, Niels will pass the aircraft on to the pilots.
Natürlich freut sich jeder Kapitän, wenn
Of course, any captain would be happy if he gets the plane without any complaints. Nearly always that will be the case. Otherwise, a flight may be cancelled, postponed, or the aircraft changed. The teamwork with the crews is actually very good.
eigentlich sehr gut.
The gear is in order, the air is controlled, and the gear pins are out. I've completed the check too. Now we're just waiting for the crew. The tank vehicle is already here, which is now starting to refuel. "4:50 a.m. Max arrives in Terminal 1 of Frankfurt Airport. Between 5 and 8 a.m. there are almost 100 flights on the display panel. Max is one of approximately 250 passengers on the flight to Heraklion. He is heading for check-in. At this point, the preparations of the technicians on the Boeing 757 are almost completed. Paperwork is still missing.
Wir bestätigen jetzt hier über unser System den
We now confirm this so-called ramp check, which we made tonight in our system. This is an inspection of the aircraft. The check is performed every 48 hours minimum and is one of the smaller checks.
und gehört zu den kleinen Checks, die zwischendurch gemacht werden, zwischen den größeren Inspektionen, die wir noch haben.
Nils Eich has been working for the airline for 11 years and has special training for Boeing 757s and 767s. Today he's been on a night shift. Even now, at the end of the shift, full concentration is expected from him.
Die Verantwortung ist schon sehr groß, was wir haben.
Our responsibility is very high. It's just the big issue of safety in aviation. You have to think on it, about how you do it, and you have to do it with high concentration to ensure that it is always safe.
Gewährleisten, dass wir halt auch immer das machen, was wir machen, sicher machen.
Night shifts are especially demanding and are not to be underestimated.
Das ist wirklich
Well, this really varies from person to person. Some do very well with it, others a bit less so. It also depends how long you've been doing the job already. It is a big physical strain. The technicians work together as a team of at least 2 people and must approve all the procedures with their signatures. Nils, however, deals with the pressure and the hours very well.
Ich habe das nie bereut.
I've never regretted this job. I'm always as happy as I was on the first day, and I hope that I can do a lot more years. Captain Philipp Heinbockel and co-pilot Dorothy Herman are on the way to crew briefing. The cabin crew are already preparing for the flight. 6 flight attendants are distributed. The 35-year-old captain is the only man in the crew. He addresses the team with information for the day.
Guten Morgen nochmal.
Good morning. Sorry we're a little bit late. We needed some extra time to calculate the fuel so that we don't need to refill in Heraklion.
Heraklion nicht tanken müssen, also wir haben durchgetankt bis Santorini.
We've tanked enough fuel for Santorini. The flight time to Heraklion is 2 hours 35 minutes. The route goes south over Munich, Austria, along the Adriatic coast, directly to Heraklion. Till Munich, it can be a bit shaky, but once we reach the cruising altitude, the weather will be nice. In Heraklion, we've got some winds heading from the south, later on turning to the north. It's 20 degrees Celsius and sunny, so everything is nice.
20 Grad Sonne, alles schön. Ich wollte nur noch mal daran erinnern, dass wir beides Mal über Wasser anfliegen. In Heraklion ja auch wirklich bis kurz vor die Landebahn ist da Wasser und auch in Santorini. Santorini haben wir ja.
I'd once again like to remind you that we are approaching Heraklion and Santorini over water, so please be aware of your positions and your final commands. Have a nice flight. We'll be starting soon.
Und dann einen schönen Flug. Ja. Dann fahren wir los, ne?
The crew is now complete. They're brought to the aircraft by crew buses. Meanwhile, Max is on his way to check-in. Keep the identification and travel documents ready and pay attention to the size and weight of your hand luggage. From the electrical one to a real airline employee.
Ihren Ausweis hätte ich gerne.
Can I have your identity card, please? Are you taking baggage with you? Yes, a suitcase. Okay, can you place the suitcase on the belt for me, please? Where would you like to sit, aisle or window? At the window, please. At the window? Okay. Then comes the advice not to dawdle around, but to proceed towards the gate immediately. Have a wonderful trip and a nice stay in Heraklion. At the airport's line system, the Boeing 757 is now refueled. The fuel is pumped with a dispenser vehicle in the aircraft's tank. The refueling takes place for about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the route. For today's flight, I think we'll fill up about 16 tons of fuel. And this is done in half an hour? Yes, half an hour maximum. That's it. The fuel comes from 10 huge tanks in the airport. They store about 200 million litres of fuel. The fuel is passed through a 60-kilometre pipeline system under the ramp directly to the parking positions. Tankers are used very rarely. In order to save unnecessary weight, the pilots have calculated the exact amount of fuel. The fuel is then distributed in different tanks. We've got 3 tanks, 1 tank in each wing and 1 centre tank in the fuselage. The tanker driver pre-selects accordingly so that it gets evenly distributed. The 757 can hold around 45,000 litres of fuel and has a range of over 6,000 kilometres. Since Greece is only half that distance away, it can be refuelled less. This saves weight and in turn fuel as well. It is then refilled in Santorini. The fuel price has multiplied over the past 10 years. This has made flying more expensive, so trying to save fuel is more important now than ever. In the cabin, technician Alexandros Koulouris makes a last inspection. The aircraft has been cleaned last night and is now ready to fly. The catering is already there. The aircraft has been refueled, so far the cabin is fine. We're just now waiting for the crew so that we can pass on the aircraft to them. It is now 5:15 a.m. Still 60 minutes till departure.